Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. I'm going to do a Threefa film review. Maybe even a fourfer. No, let's say a Threefa film review. These are films that I wouldn't rate, but I've watched in the past 2 or 3 weeks. And I think in general, they might be films that are marketed to you, but I just want to give you a warning. Now, the first one is probably not going to be marketed to you. I've gone through a kick associated with British gangster films, and Henna was one of these films, Hyena. It's a convoluted story about a corrupt police officer and the various machinations that he has to do in order to try and right circumstances which he ultimately created. It's part of a genre of conclusions in these films where you don't actually, the film doesn't end. Like, the film doesn't have a conclusive end. And I wanted to warn folks in advance associated with this, because I thought my time was wasted at the conclusion of this film. Now, there's a fellow who was in, who was in both Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and also in Snatch. He's like the lead character actor through this thing. He's not the lead actor, but the whole thing just seemed shambolic to me. There's violent sex and rape and all this other stuff. And it's just like, this film doesn't need this. It needs a plot, right? It needs a plot that's relatively coherent. The liaising of characters, how they come in and out, and just lack of development of characters. I don't know. I watched this film in 2 sittings. I couldn't watch the film in 1 sitting. It was just, well, it was boring. I mean, let's call it what it was. It was just generally boring. So within this scheme of things, Henna, not recommended. Oliver Stone's Snowden, not recommended. I watched Snowden, and I think Snowden's a difficult character. I mean, I think the actual ethics behind Snowden is really fascinating. In fact, it's fascinating with a large number of these whistleblowers that actually they need to be defective characters in order to get the information that they have to release. Like, I hit moral turpitude periodically through my professional career, and sometimes I make the wrong decisions through my professional career. I have made the wrong decisions based on these things. And I've done a wide variety of things that I'm not professionally proud of through my career. That being said, the stuff that occurs in Snowden, and really, you don't need to see this film to know this. This guy was involved on many occasions with multi-layers of highly concerning and generally dubious means of gathering information. He was someone who has this kind of almost autistic bent to get into these circumstances, and then, perhaps through his girlfriend, what have you, he decided, well, now's my time to be a star in this thing. I don't think Oliver Stone actually has a distance from the character. I don't think he has a distance from Snowden himself. I think he's infatuated with Snowden, actually. And this film is more an account of how lucky Oliver Stone has been in order to know Edward Snowden. It's not an introspective or deep analysis of Snowden, and it's in no way critical of him in any meaningful sense. The fact that Snowden himself appears in it and clearly has a large part in the creation of this film just negates its benefit, I think. And really, the analysis of Snowden is yet to come. The deeper analysis of all this stuff, of Chelsea Manning, all this stuff is yet to come. But the media and Oliver Stone lack a depth of approach. They just want superficiality with all this stuff. And I just think Snowden is kind of rushed. It's too sympathetic to Snowden. And in general, I don't know. I just felt it wasn't worth having. So that's my review of Snowden. The final movie that I'm going to review here is Christine. I finally watched Christine. I doubted whether I should have watched Christine because the previous movie that I reviewed associated with this phenomena was so bad and so boring. I thought, how much better can Christine be? It's not much better. It's pretty boring. Once you know the story, you don't need to watch a movie associated with this thing. And through all of this, I don't know. I mean, it's part of a footnote of American media history, which obviously, Bud Dwyer and various other incidental characters have stepped into. But this whole notion of suicide on film, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just at an age where this whole thing seems really passé. But what led her to that point, all these things, you don't get a sense of fulfillment through this film. There's no resolution. There's just a story about a woman who, like many people who are involved in any form of critical social change, has immense degrees of self-doubt and ultimately kills herself, which really is basically what every entity in this film wants other than her, or at least her removal, obviously not necessarily her death, but her removal from the circumstance is pretty self-evident. This is one of these things where I reflect quite heavily periodically associated with when people let go professionally. This is just a circumstance where she should have never been in the position she was in. It just strikes me as a really bad scene all around, and she was coming back to either look after her mother or have her mother look after her, and it just seems to be, like watching a train wreck in slow motion. I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. It didn't add anything to me. And I wondered, having watched it, why I'd even watched it. Tom Bublé in San Jose, signing out.